Welcome back to the War Room. We're doing another army review, and today we're going to be looking at the Daughters of Khaine. I just barely played against this army in the Las Vegas Open, and it was terrifying. They're scary. They do a ton of damage in combat. They've got really good spells, really good prayers. It synergizes very well from one unit to the next, and some of their army rules are very, very strong and very cool. So this is an army I'm excited to get around to talk about and share my opinions with you guys. As always, if you aren't already subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. We're working up to getting membership status and the ability to have you guys contribute a little more. Like this video. If you play these guys, comment. If you want to see a different army in one of these reviews, leave a comment and let us know. But let's get started. So the first thing we're going to hop into is the battle traits. The first one is all out slaughter. This is once per battle. In any combat phase, you can spend a command point. Pick a friendly Daughters of Khaine infantry unit that is in combat to use this ability. That unit can use 2 fight abilities this phase. After the first is used, this unit has strike last for the rest of the turn. We see a lot of armies, a lot of units have something like this on their war scroll. This being a battle trait and costing a command point is really cool because you're going to be getting a lot of attacks with some of your units. So giving them a fight twice ability is really strong, even if that second one is fight last. And then their other battle trait is called Blood Rights. So a different effect applies to friendly Daughters of Khaine units each battle round as shown below. The effects of all previous battle rounds also apply to those units. So battle round 1 is the Quickening Bloodlust. Add 1 to run rolls for this unit. Battle round 2 is Headlong Fury. Add 1 to charge rolls for this unit, aka all units. Battle round 3, Zealot's Rage. Add 1 to hit rolls for this unit's combat attacks. Battle round 4, Slaughterer's Wound. Add 1 to wound rolls for this unit's combat attacks. And battle round 5, Frenzied Worshippers. Add 1 to the attacks characteristic of this unit's melee weapons. So it's similar to kind of what the Idoneth Deepkin had with their tides. Each battle round you get a certain buff, but this one they stack. So 1, you get +1 to run rolls. 2, you get +1 to charge. So battle round 2, you're +1 to runs and charges. Battle round 3, +1 to hit, plus those other 2. Battle round 4, you're +1 to hit, +1 to wound, +1 to run, +1 to charge. And then battle round 5 is plus attacks. And we're going to get into the prayers because the prayers can also affect this as well. So I really like this. Just a permanent army-wide, board-wide buff is really strong, and the fact that they stack can make some very scary units, which we'll see here in a second. Next up, we've got the battle formations. We've got the Scathe Coven. Speed of the Scathborn. If the unmodified charge roll for a friendly Melusai or Kinnerai unit is 8+, that unit has strike first for the rest of the turn. We'll get into what those mean in a second, but essentially the snakes on an 8+, they have strike first when they charge in, which is pretty awesome because the snakes hit really hard in combat. The Shadow Patrol, once per turn per army. In your movement phase, you can use the Shadow Paths. Pick a friendly Daughters of Khaine infantry unit that is not in combat to use this ability. Roll a dice on a 3+, remove that unit from the battlefield and set it up again on the battlefield more than 9 inches from all enemy units. So it's a 3-up teleport once per turn in your movement phase. You've got other units that can teleport around as well. This gives you an army-wide one. You do have to roll for it, but very good. It's anywhere on the battlefield outside 9, which is nice instead of being, like a wholly within battlefield edge. A Cauldron Guard, once per turn per army. At the end of any turn, you can use Frenzied Devotees. Pick up to 3 friendly Daughters of Khaine infantry or war machine units that are in combat to be the targets for each target. Make a pile-in move, then pick an enemy unit in combat with the target and roll a d3. On a 2+, inflict an amount of mortal damage on that enemy unit equal to the roll. Seraphon has a very similar thing to this. At the end of the turn, they do a little pile-in, do the mortals. So it's really good to get a bunch of chip damage. If you have a ton of units, you can pick up to 3 of them. There's pile-in, chip, pile-in, chip, pile-in, chip. It is the bad D3, so D3 on a 2+. It's only 66% of the time is the math on that you're going to be doing these. But if you do, you're doing 2 or 3 mortals when it goes off. And then the Slaughter Troop, Once per turn per army, this is a reaction when you declare a charge ability for a friendly Daughters of Khaine elf unit, gladiatorial acrobatics, change one of the dice in the charge roll to a 4. So this just helps you make longer charges. If you rolled, a 3, you rolled a 2 and a 1, right? You can change that 1 to a 4. It's once per turn per army, so it's kind of like a reroll, but it's not, which I think this is actually a little better because if you have a 6-inch charge, you can see exactly what you need to do. And if you roll it and you see that you can get it if you change one of those dice to a 4, you don't have to re-roll and you can save your re-roll somewhere else. I like that as well. It kind of depends on what armies you're running. If you're going to run a ton of snakes, I think the Scathe Coven is really good. If you're running a ton of units, infantry specific or war machines, the Cauldron Guard with that chip damage is kind of nice. I don't know. I like their battle formations. I think any of them are good. Moving on to the heroic traits, you can give one of these to one of your not named heroes. So at the end of any turn, you can do Master of Poisons. Pick an enemy unit that had any damage points allocated to it this turn by this unit's combat attacks to be the target for the rest of the battle. The target cannot be healed. Slain models cannot be returned to the target. I think this one is really good. Looking at some of these super tanky units that just keep coming back and keep getting more health. Personally, like I'm playing 2 Leviathans right now for the Ideneth Deepkin. They're really hard to kill, and especially if they get out of combat, then I just do everything I can to heal them back up. If this got onto one of them, right, where the target cannot be healed for the rest of the battle, would be really good. Or if you're looking at these little infantry units, like you've got clan rats, they can't return slain models. That's kind of what I think of with that. I like that a lot. Another one is Bathed in Blood. At the end of any turn, heal this unit for 3 if it is in combat, which is really strong too. It's a flat 3, it's not a D3, which is really nice, and it's the end of any turn. So as long as you survive combats, then you're just going to be healing 3 each turn. And then Zealous Orator. If a friendly unit wholly within 12 inches of this unit uses the rally command, you can make 3 additional rally rolls of D6. This is a classic. A ton of armies have this or something similar to this. Rolling 9 dice or 10 dice on your rally is really awesome, and that gives you a chance to heal back, on average 5 damage that was done, which is really strong. I really like the Master of Poisons. I think that it has a ton of uses because just not being able to be healed is really strong. We're seeing a lot of primal energy manifestations with the Life Swarm, just healing for 3 each turn. Very, very strong. Moving on to the Artifacts of Power. Once again, you can give this to one of your non-named heroes. So you have the Khainite Pendant. Once per battle in your hero phase, pick a friendly Daughters of Khaine priest wholly within 12 inches of this unit. Give that unit D6 ritual points. This one being once per battle is a little tricky because D6 ritual points, you could just roll a 1, and then, okay, they get 1 ritual point. Especially right now, what's really strong is the Scourge of Ghyran Carthuza. She is a powerhouse for getting ritual points. I don't think this is one to use right now. Maybe once the Scourge of Ghyran ends, this one will be viable again. But right now, you have other ways in your army to get a ton of ritual points with your prayers. The Crown of Woe. Subtract 2 from the control scores of enemy units while they are within 9 inches of this unit. Some more control score manipulation. We've said it a million times. It's not really a thing. It comes into play here and there, but the control score manipulation is not going to be something you're worried too much about with this army. And then the Sevenfold Shadow. Once per battle in your movement phase, if this unit is not in combat, remove it from the battlefield and set it up again on the battlefield more than 9 inches from all enemy units. This is a free teleport that you don't have to roll for. Unlike the battle formation, this one just happens. It is going to be attached to whatever hero you give this to. So if one of your heroes gets into danger, you can just teleport them away, which is really nice. And then moving on to the spell lore, I think their spell lore is very strong because of 2 of these spells. The first one being Steed of Shadows, and the other one being Mind Razor. If you've ever played against a Daughters of Khaine player, you know exactly what those 2 are. So the first one is Steed of Shadows, goes off on a 5. Pick a friendly Daughters of Khaine wizard to cast this spell. Pick a visible friendly Daughters of Khaine unit only within 12 inches of them to be the target. Then make a casting roll of 2d6. The target can use charge abilities, even if it used a run ability in the same turn. So, run and charge is really strong. As an Iden Thiepken player, I rely on it a ton to get where I need to go and make my charges off. This going off on a 5 seems criminal, and it being the unlimited spell. When I was playing against Cameron at the Las Vegas Open, I didn't realize that unlimited spells could be cast onto the same unit multiple times. I knew you could cast from each wizard since it's the unlimited spell. Each wizard could cast it, but I didn't realize that if you failed to cast it or it was unbound on a unit, you could just use a different wizard to cast it again. So I unbound this spell on some of his snakes, and then he cast it again onto them with another cast, and then they ran and charged and killed a Leviathan. It was the scariest thing ever. They were also buffed to the teeth with this other spell, Mind Razor. So Mind Razor goes off on an 8. Pick a friendly Daughters of Khaine wizard to cast this spell. Pick a visible friendly Daughters of Khaine unit only within 12 inches of them to be the target. Then make a casting roll of 2d6. Add 1 to the Ren characteristic of the target's melee weapons until the start of your next turn. In addition, if the target charged this turn, add 1 to the damage characteristic of its melee weapons until the start of your next turn. So, let's put those two together. You've got run and charge. You got +1 rend and +1 damage since you charged. Just those two together. And we're not even into the prayer lore yet. We'll get to that in a second. So that in and of itself, it goes off on an 8, which is a little tough, but +1 to rend and +1 to damage if you charged is unbelievably strong. Especially when you consider the amount of attacks you can get with your battle traits, and they're going to fight twice, and so they're going to double all of those attacks if nobody swings back into them. It's crazy. The other spell is Doomfire. This goes off on a 7. Pick a friendly Daughters of Khaine wizard to cast this spell. Pick a visible enemy unit within 12 inches of them to be the target. Then make a casting roll of 2d6. If the target has fewer than 10 models, inflict d3 mortal damage on the target. If the target unit has 10 to 19 models, inflict d6 mortal damage on the target. If the target has 20 or more models, inflict 6 mortal damage on the target. So this one's a little weird because I feel like this could be an easy roll a die for the number of models in the target unit on a 5+ do that many mortals. Seems to be kind of the math they're looking at here, but they decided to do it this way. This isn't why you're casting spells. You're not going to use any of your spells to cast Doomfire. You're using Seed of Shadows and you're using Mind Razor to go in and obliterate whatever you want to. Moving on to the prayer lore. First one, we have Sacrament of Blood. This goes off on a 5. Pick a friendly Daughters of Khaine priest to chant this prayer. Pick a visible friendly Daughters of Khaine unit wholly within 12 inches of them to be the target. Then make a chanting roll of d6. Until the start of your next turn, add 1 to the current battle round number when determining which effects of the Blood Rites ability apply to the target. If the chanting roll was 10+, until the start of your next turn, treat the current battle round number as 5 when determining which effects of the Blood Rites ability apply to the target instead. This spell is the whole reason you have a prayer lore. If it goes off on a 10, you get your turn 5 Blood Rites battle trait, which means you're +1 to run, you're +1 to charge, you're +1 to hit, you're +1 to wound, and you're +1 to attacks. So in this game I played against Cameron, he got that off. He got Sacrament of Blood off onto 10 of the Blood Sisters, and he got off Mind Razor, and he got off Seed of Shadows. So listen, just listen to all of the different things that were on these 10 Blood Sisters. +1 to run, +1 to charge, +1 to hit, +1 to wound, +1 to attacks, +1 to rend, and +1 damage. And then when he got into combat, he said, I'm going to spend a command point to have them fight twice. And he killed my Leviathan, which was at full health in his first activation. And luckily, I was able to kill them before they got their second activation off. But if you're listening to this video, you can see just how disgusting this whole setup can be. If you put it onto Witch Elves, you put it onto Sisters of Slaughter, like you have so many attacks with Mind Razor, with the Sacrament of Blood, with your Blood Rites, like you can just buff units to an insane level. The next prayer is the Martyr Sacrifice. This goes off on a 4. Pick a friendly Daughters of Khaine priest to chant this prayer. Pick a visible friendly Daughters of Khaine unit wholly within 12 inches of them to be the target. Then make a casting roll of d6. Until the start of your next turn, each time a model in the target unit is slain by a combat attack, before removing the model from play, pick an enemy unit in combat with the target and roll a dice. If the chanting roll is 8 plus, roll 2 dice instead of 1. For each 5 up, inflict 1 mortal damage on that enemy unit after the fight ability has been resolved. So, as your models are dying, you can do mortals back on 5 ups. If you get it off on an 8 plus, then you roll 2 dice for each time one of your models is slain. So just a little way to kind of kick back at whatever unit you're in combat with. And then the last prayer is Covenant of the Iron Heart. This goes off on a 4. Pick a friendly Daughters of Khaine priest to chant this prayer. Pick a visible friendly Daughters of Khaine unit wholly within 12 inches of them to be the target. Then make a chanting roll of d6. Ignore negative modifiers to the target's control score until the start of your next turn. In addition, if the chanting roll is 8 plus, add 5 to the target's control score until the start of your next turn. So, control score manipulation, you're never going to use this. If you do, it's because you already used Sacrament of Blood and Martyr Sacrifice in that turn. So, control score manipulation in your prayers, great, awesome. Moving on to the manifestation lore, we've got the Blade Wind. It goes off on a 6. You roll 2d6. If it's 6 or higher, it goes off. You set up a Blade Wind wholly within 9 inches of the caster, outside of 9 from all enemy units. You can't have more than 2 of these. And then its profile here. The Blade Wind has a 6-up armor save, 12-inch move, 7 health, and banishes on a 7+. It's got the Bladed Vortex for melee weapons, 9 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1 with crit 2 hits. And then in any combat phase, you can use Unnatural Edge. If this manifestation charged this turn, pick an enemy unit in combat with it to be the target. Roll a dice on a 3+, ignore positive modifiers to save rolls for the target for the rest of the turn. So you kind of just throw this in, hope you get a 3-up, and then they can't, all out defense or get any sort of bonuses from any abilities to make their save better, which is pretty insane. So the Blade Wind is really good. I like it. The next one we've got is the Blood Rack Viper. Also goes on a 6, 2d6, 6 or higher. You get it. Set up a Blood Rack Viper wholly within 9 inches of the caster, more than 9 inches from all enemy units. And his profile, he's got a 4-up armor save, 9-inch movement, 10 health, and banishes on a 7+. He's got Fanged Strikes for melee weapons, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 1, damage 3, with anti-hero +1 rend, and crit mortals. And then he's got Crushing Coils, so once per turn per army in any combat phase, pick an enemy infantry hero in combat with this manifestation to be the target. Roll a dice on a 3+. The target has Strike Last for the rest of the turn. So he's kind of your hero hunter, very similar to like the Glade Worm with Sylvaneth. Just go try and find an infantry hero, make him strike last, your anti-hero, you got crit mortals. Both of these also have 6-up ward saves. And then the last one is the Heart of Fury. The Heart of Fury is a prayer, so it goes off on a 5. You have to have a priest to chant it. And then you set up the Heart of Fury wholly within 9 inches of the chanter, visible to them. And what the Heart of Fury does is kind of cool. So it has a 4-up armor save, no movement, 7 health, and banishes on a 7+. It has this ability, the Locus of the Murder God. Subtract 1 from wound rolls for combat attacks that target friendly Daughters of Khaine infantry units while they are wholly within 12 inches of this manifestation. The build I kind of see is you've got your Hag Queen on the Cauldron, put this right next to it or right where it's going to be, and it gives out this bubble of 12 inches, -1 to wound, which is pretty insane. So -1 to wound is really strong because monsters, a lot of them are wounding on 2s, making them wound on 3s, or infantry that wound on, 3s go up to 4s, elves that are wounding on 4s, or humans that are on 4s go up to 5s to wound you. Gets really strong really, really quick. And it kind of gives this army that doesn't have a ton of armor on it a little bit of a more tanky buff. Granted, this thing can't move, so if you're going to go anywhere, you got to recast this and set it up again. But in your castle, having this around is a very good piece to help keep you alive. So now we're going to hop into the War Scrolls now. The first one we're looking at is Khaine. 5 up armor save, 6-inch move, 6 health, 2 control. Melee weapons, it's got Heart Render and Bladed Wings. 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, rend 2, damage 2. The War Scroll spell is called Mirror Dance. It goes off on a 7. If a friendly Shadow Queen is on the battlefield, make a casting roll of 2d6. Place 2 tokens on the battlefield, one directly underneath the center of this unit's base, and one directly under the center of a friendly Shadow Queen's base. Then remove this unit and that Shadow Queen from the battle. Set up each unit again with its base overlapping the center of the token of the other token, then remove the tokens. If it is not possible to set up either of the units on the battlefield, return both units to their original positions. Each unit can only be set up in combat with units that the other unit was already in combat with. So, the Shadow Queen, we'll get to here in a second, but the Shadow Queen hits super hard, and Khaine does not. So, you can kind of just swap them with this spell and throw the Shadow Queen into combat, get Khaine out of combat if you need it, which is very tricky. And then 1 soul, 2 bodies. Each time a damage point would be allocated to this unit, it is instead allocated to a friendly, the Shadow Queen. You cannot make any further ward rolls for that damage point. If this unit would be automatically destroyed by another ability, it is not automatically destroyed. Instead, allocate 3 damage points to a friendly Shadow, the Shadow Queen. Ward rolls cannot be made for those damage points. If a friendly, the Shadow Queen is destroyed, this unit is automatically destroyed. So essentially, you got to kill the Shadow Queen before you kill this thing. And then Sorcerer Supreme, add 1 to casting rolls for this unit. So the Shadow Queen is also a level 3 wizard and has a 6-up ward save. So a level 3 wizard with +1 to cast is going to be really strong, especially considering Mind Razor goes off on an 8. With this +1 to cast, it's now going to go off on a 7, which is way more likely to happen. And then we'll go into the Shadow Queen's War Scroll as well. 4-up armor save, 6-up ward save, 12-inch move, 12 health, 10 control. Ranged weapons, the Gaze of the Shadow Queen, 12-inch range, 1 attack, hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s, rend 3, damage d6, and it can shoot in combat. And then melee weapons, you've got Heart Render, 8 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 2, damage 3 with crit mortals. The Crown of Serpents, 2d6 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1. And then the Envenomed Tail, 1 attack, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 2, damage 6. So the hard hitter obviously is Heart Render, the Envenomed Tail being 6 damage with only 1 attack. If you can get that through, is awesome, but a 3-up is tough to do with just 1 attack. For abilities, you got the Iron Heart of Khaine. You cannot allocate more than 3 damage points to this unit each turn. Once 3 damage points have been allocated to this unit in a turn, any further damage points that would be allocated to it are ignored. Damage points allocated to this unit cannot be healed. If this unit would be automatically destroyed, it is not automatically destroyed. Instead, allocate 3 damage points to it. The first time I read through this, I thought it was 3 damage points per phase. It is 3 damage points per turn. So throughout magic, shooting, charge, and combat, and end of turn stuff, you can take 3 total damage through all of that. It's only got 12 health, but this thing is just going to stick around forever, especially with the being able to switch out spell with Khaine. Like, you can just be super annoying. This thing is going to just keep hitting. It doesn't bracket, so it's just going to keep on swinging on you and killing you. And you can't do a whole lot to stop it. And then the Fury of the Shadow Queen, once per turn per army in any combat phase. Pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a d3 on a 2+, inflict an amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll. If any models are slain by this ability, for the rest of the turn, add 1 to the attack's characteristic of melee weapons used by friendly Kinnari and Melusai units while they are wholly within 12 inches of this unit. So, if you slay a model with these mortals, you give it out +1 attacks, which could already be +1 attacks that they already have, which could already be +1 rend and +1 damage. The whole thing with Mind Razor and with the Sacrament of Blood. It's crazy. It's crazy how strong these guys can get, because they're not a tanky army, but if they swing into you first, you're just going to die. And then next up, we've got Krithuza, the Crone Seer. 5-up armor save, 6-up ward save, Priest 1, 12-inch move, 6 health, 2 control. For melee weapons, she's got the Staff of Morai Heg. 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, rend 1 damage D3. And then once per turn in any hero phase, she can do Burnt Offerings. If this unit is within the combat range of a friendly Cauldron of Blood, pick a visible friendly Daughters of Khaine elf non-hero infantry unit wholly within 18 inches of this unit to be the target. Roll a dice on a 2+, pick one of the following effects to apply to the target. Prophecy of Silence. Until the start of your next turn, enemy units cannot use commands while they are in combat with the target. Prophecy of Dark Wings. The target can use a normal move ability as if it were your movement phase. That unit counts as having used a run ability this turn. Prophecy of Reclamation. For the rest of the turn, while the target is contesting an objective, subtract 10 from the control scores of enemy units contesting that objective that do not have hero or monster keywords. You can just launch a unit up the board with Dark Wings. You can turn off commands, or you can do some control score manipulation, which I think her War Scroll is pretty awesome. Her War Scroll Prayer is called Murder of Crows. This goes off on a 4. Pick a visible enemy unit within 18 inches of this unit to be the target, then make a chanting roll of D6. Roll a D3. If the chanting roll was 8+, roll a D6 instead. Inflict an amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll. In addition, if the roll exceeds the target's health characteristic, subtract 1 from hit rolls for your target's attacks until the start of your next turn. So if the roll is higher than the target's health, they're -1 to hit. Very strong. I know a lot of people are using her Scourge of Gyran War Scroll. I'm not going to cover that in this video because it's a seasonal thing. So if it's still happening, hop on to Warhammer Community. You can see all of the Scourge of Gyran stuff. You can see her War Scroll and exactly what it does. It's insane because she gets extra ritual rolls and she's going to be getting all of her spells off on the higher amount. So that 8 on this, she's going to be getting everything off. I think when I was playing against Cameron, I think he got one of his prayers off on like a 14 or something like that. It was crazy. The next up, we've got the Blood Rack Shrine, 4 up armor save, 6 up ward save, wizard 1, 6-inch move, 12 health, 5 control. Ranged weapons, you've got the Blood Rack Stare, 12-inch range, 1 attack, hitting on 2s, and then it has shoot in combat. So each time this unit attacks with its Blood Rack Stare, if the attack scores a hit, roll a number of dice equal to the number of models in the target unit. For each 5+, inflict 1 mortal damage on that unit. You cannot pick the same enemy unit to be targeted by attacks made with a Blood Rack Stare more than once per phase. So essentially what this is saying is you can't have 2 of these and just keep blasting away at the same unit. You can only do it once per target unit. Melee weapons, you've got the Blood Rack Spear and Whisper Claw, 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, rend 1 damage 2. And then the Shrine Keeper's Goad Staves, 6 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, no rend damage 1. And then you have the Aura of Agony. This is in your hero phase. Pick up to 3 different enemy units within 9 inches of this unit to be the targets. Roll a d3 for each target. On a 2+, inflict an amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll. That's kind of nice. It kind of just gives out this 9-inch bubble of D3 2-up mortals. You can only pick 3 enemy units, but most of the time, that's the most that's going to be in the range. And then Bladed Impact. This is in any charge phase. If this unit charged this phase, pick an enemy unit within 1 inch of it to be the target. Roll a d3 on a 2+, inflict an amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll. So, D3 2-up impact hits. A classic. Okay, next up, we've got the Melusai Iron Scale. 5 up armor save, 6 up ward save, 8-inch move, 6 health, 2 control. For range weapons, it's got the Keldra Scythe, 12-inch range, 2 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1 damage D3. And then melee weapons, also the Keldra Scythe, 6 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, rend 1 damage 2 with crit mortals. For abilities, you've got the Gory Offering. This is a reaction when you declare a fight ability for this unit. Pick a friendly, non-hero Melusai unit that has not used a fight ability this turn and is within this unit's combat range to be the target. The target can be picked to use a fight ability immediately after the fight ability used by this unit has been resolved. If it is picked to do so, add 1 to the attack's characteristic of the target's melee weapons for the rest of the turn. So she can chain activate another Melusai, non-hero Melusai unit, and that unit gets +1 attacks. You're seeing the pattern here of all of these +1 attacks it gets insane. And then the other ability is called Wrath of the Scathborn. You can reroll charge rolls for friendly Melusai units while they are wholly within 12 inches of this unit. So a free reroll and being able to chain activate is really awesome. Then we've got the Hag Queen on the Cauldron of Blood. 4-up armor save, 6-up ward save, priest 1, 6-inch move, 12 health, 5 control. For ranged weapons, you've got the Torrent of Burning Blood. 10-inch range, 6 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1 with shoot in combat. And then for melee weapons, you've got the Blade of Khaine. 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 2 with Grip Mortals. And the Avatar Sword. 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 2, damage 3. And then you've got the Witch Elf Scienza. 6 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1. So this thing can kind of hit pretty hard in combat. The Avatar Sword being rend 2, damage 3 is really strong. The Blade of Khaine having Crit Mortals can be dangerous. You've got the Avatar of Khaine ability. Add 1 to save rolls for friendly Daughters of Khaine infantry units while they are wholly within 9 inches of this unit. In addition, add 1 to chanting rolls for friendly Daughters of Khaine priests while they are wholly within 9 inches of this unit. This is what your castle is going to be based around. This thing is really strong, really good. Adding to chanting rolls, adding to save rolls. Then you've got Bladed Impact. When you charge, roll a d3. 2 up, does that many mortals. Classic. And then you've got Witch Brew, once per turn per army in any hero phase. Pick a friendly Daughters of Khaine unit wholly within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. Roll a dice on a 3+. The target has a 5-up ward for the rest of the turn. Super strong considering you don't have a lot of armor. A 5-up ward really helps you to just shed a lot of damage. We always joke about a 5-up ward is better than a 4-up ward. Mathematically, it's not, but it feels like it a lot of times. It feels like you roll 50% 5-up wards. Okay, next up we've got the Blood Rack Medusa. 5-up armor save, 6-up ward save, wizard 1, 8-inch move, 6 health, 2 control. We've got the Blood Rack Stare. We've talked about this one. You roll 1 attack, hits on a 2+, and then you roll a die for each model in the target unit. 5 ups do mortals. Melee weapons, you've got the Blood Rack Spear and Whisper Claw. 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 2. You have the Melusai Kin. This is a reaction for when you declare a fight ability for this unit. Pick a friendly non-hero Melusai unit that has not used a fight ability this turn and is within this unit's combat range to be the target. The target can be picked to use a fight ability immediately after the fight ability used by this unit has been resolved. So can chain activate other snake units that are non-hero. Then we've got the Hag Queen on foot. 5-up armor save, 6-up ward save, priest 1, 6-inch movement, 5 health, 2 control. Blade of Khaine, 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 2 with crit mortals. And then Witch Brew, which we've talked about. Pick a unit wholly within 12 inches of this on a 3-up, has the 5-up ward for the rest of the turn. So giving out that 5-up ward is once again so strong. I think the reason you take the Cauldron is because it is a little stronger than just having her. But also you could take one of her on foot, save the points that you would use on the Cauldron and spend it on other stuff. The Avatar of Khaine, 3-up armor save, 6-up ward save, 6-inch move, 7 health, 2 control. Ranged weapons, you've got the Torrent of Burning Blood, 10-inch range, 6 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1, shoot in combat, and the Avatar Sword, 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 2, damage 3. And then the ability, you've got the Wrath of Khaine, once per turn per army in any charge phase. D3 2-up mortals on impact. If the target is a monster, then you double the amount of mortal damage. You're doing 4 mortals or 6 mortals onto monsters. Then we've got the Slaughter Queen on the Cauldron of Blood. 4-up armor save, 6-up ward save, priest 1, 6-inch move, 12 health, 5 control. For ranged weapons, we've got the Torrent of Burning Blood again. Melee weapons, you've got the Death Sword and Blade of Khaine. 6 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 2. Avatar Sword, 5 attacks, 3s, rend 2, damage 3. And then the Witch Elves attacks, 6 attacks, 3s, 4s, no rend, damage 1. The Altar of Khaine, add 1 to save rolls for friendly Daughters of Khaine infantry units while they're wholly within 9 inches of this unit, and +1 to chant while they're wholly within 9. So keep your priests around this. You're going to be building up those points quite a bit. And then you have the Orgy of Slaughter. Once per turn per army in any combat phase, Pick a friendly Daughters of Khaine elf infantry unit wholly within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. Roll a dice on a 3+, add 1 to the attacks characteristic of the target's melee weapons for the rest of the turn. Another way to get +1 attacks. Surprise, surprise. And then Bladed Impact when you charge D3 2 up mortals. So, once again, another way to get more attacks onto a unit. I think taking a Cauldron, whether it's with the Slaughter Queen or with the Hag Queen, either one are going to be very, very strong, and that's what you're going to build your castle around. And then we've got the Slaughter Queen on foot. 5 up armor save, 6 up ward save, priest 1, 6-inch move, 6 health, 5 health, 2 control. You've got the Death Sword and the Blade of Khaine, 6 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 2. And then the Orgy of Slaughter, which we just talked about. Pick someone wholly within 12, as long as they're infantry. On a 3+, add 1 to the attacks characteristic. Same thing with the Hag Queen. I think you take her on the Cauldron if you're taking her at all. But if you want to save points, take her on foot and get more units, get more models on the board. Next up, we've got the High Gladiatrix. 5 up armor save, 6 up ward save, 6-inch move, 5 health, 2 control. She's got the Barbed Whip and Gladiatrix Blade. 6 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 2. She's got the Paragon of Slaughter, so in any combat phase, if this unit is in combat, pick a visible, friendly Daughters of Khaine elf, non-hero infantry unit, only within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. Roll a dice on a 2+, add 1 to the rend characteristic of melee weapons used by the target for the rest of the turn. So now, on a 2+, you've got a +1 to rend mechanic with all the other +1 attacks mechanics. A lot of times, you're going to be rend 2 if she's in your army. And then Killing Stroke, once per battle in any combat phase. Pick an enemy hero in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll 2d6. If the roll exceeds the target's health characteristic, it is automatically destroyed. A classic. Really easy to kill like a foot hero with this. 2d6, just roll higher than the health. Most of them are health 5 or 6. I mean, even heroes that are health 8, you got a chance of killing them. Doomfire Warlocks. These guys are so funny. These guys are very, very interesting. 5 up armor save, 6 up ward save. The unit is Wizard 1, so as long as there's one alive, you can cast a spell. 14-inch move, 3 health, 1 control. For ranged weapons, they've got the Doomfire Crossbow, 10-inch range, 2 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1. And then melee weapons, they've got the Cursed Scimitar, 2 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 1. And then the Dark Steed's Vicious Bite, 2 attacks, hitting on 5s, wounding on 3s, no rend, damage 1. With the companion keyword, they've got the Outmaneuver ability. So when this unit uses a redeploy command, if you roll a 1 to 3 when determining the distance this unit can move, you can instead use a value of 4. So you roll this. If you get a 1 through 3, you're just going 4. If you get a 4, 5, or 6, that's how much you go, which is nice because these guys are not built to fight. You just want them to be running around and picking up battle tactics, casting spells, and just being annoying in general. The Sisters of Slaughter with sacrificial knives. 6 up armor save, 6 up ward save, 6-inch move, 1 health, 1 control. They've got the Whiplash and sacrificial knife. 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1, with anti-infantry +1 rend. And then they have the Dance of Death ability. So this is in the enemy combat phase. This unit can move 3 inches. It can pass through the combat ranges of enemy units and can end that move in combat. So they can do essentially another 3-inch pile-in before you go, which is kind of a techie little thing. It can kind of help you to set up and get your units kind of block out them from being able to tag other stuff. It's an interesting little mechanic there. It can help you keep your enemy off of objectives as well, which is pretty annoying, but that's kind of what they're good for. And then the Sisters of Slaughter with bladed bucklers, 5 up armor save, 6 up ward save, 6-inch move, 1 health, 1 control. They have the same Whiplash, 2 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1, with anti-infantry +1 rend. And then they have the Dance of Diversion, so you subtract 1 from hit rolls for combat attacks that target this unit. They're just -1 to be hit in combat all the time. And then the bladed bucklers, each time you make an unmodified save roll of 6 for a combat attack that targets this unit, inflict 1 mortal damage on the attacking unit after the fight ability has been resolved. If you're getting attacked and you make a 6-up save, then the unit that attacked you takes a mortal damage, which is pretty cool. It's kind of a cool little shield bash kind of thing. And then the witch elves with bladed bucklers. These guys are what are going to be your damage dealers. 5-up armor save, 6-up ward save, 6-inch move, 1 health, 1 control. They have the Sean Sa, 2 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1 with crit auto wound. And then they have the bladed bucklers as well. So they do 6s, do mortals back on their armor saves. So not a ton of attacks, right, on their base profile, but we read 3 or 4 things already, which are ways you can get more attacks, get extra rend, get an extra damage. Just absolutely scary. And then you've got another unit of Witch Elves. This one's with the paired Seansa. 6-up armor save, 6-up ward save, 6-inch move, 1 health, 1 control. With the paired weapons, 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1 with crit auto wound. And then they have Frenzied Fervor. Add 1 to the rend characteristic of this unit's melee weapons for the rest of the turn if this unit charged in the same turn. So if they charge, they get a rend. Doesn't matter how far they charge. And then the Bloodstalkers, 5-up armor save, 6-up ward save, 8-inch move, 2 health, 2 control. These are known as the Bow Snakes. They have the Heartseeker bows, 18-inch range, 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 1 with crit auto wound. And then for melee weapons, they have the Sianlar, 2 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1. They have the Heartseeker's ability, so in your shooting phase, if this unit has not used a move ability this turn and was not set up this turn, this unit's shooting attacks score critical hits on unmodified hit rolls of 5+ for the rest of the turn. So their crit auto wound on 5+ if they didn't move or they didn't teleport, which is really strong, especially considering they've got an 18-inch range. It's a big range. It's a lot of attacks. Rend 1. Damage 1 isn't huge, but with enough of them, crit 5s, you're going to get a lot of wounds through. And then the Kinnerai Heart Renders, 5-up armor save, 6-up ward save, 12-inch move, 2 health, 1 control. They have the Barbed Javelins, 12-inch range, 2 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 1 with crit auto wound. And then the Barbed Javelin is also their melee weapon, 1 attack, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1. You don't really want these guys to be in combat, obviously. They're just going to be there to get objectives and do some shooting attacks that are going to be pretty annoying. In the deployment phase, you can do Circling the Skies Above. Pick this unit, and if it has not been deployed, set this unit in reserve in the skies. It has now been deployed. And then in your movement phase, you can do Death from Above. Pick this unit if it is in the skies. Set up this unit anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 inches from all enemy units. They can come down wherever they want, just outside of 9 of enemies, which is pretty awesome. I love the mechanic of kind of the deep strike. It gets very interesting and really cool, and you can hop on objectives, you can go contest terrain, all that good stuff. Pig off little weak units that are kind of hiding in the back. And then Fire and Flight. This is any shooting phase. If this unit used a shoot ability this phase, this unit can move d6 inches. It cannot move into combat during any part of that move. So they can cover fire, jump away, or when they do their normal shooting, keep on running forward and being more annoying. And then the Blood Sisters. These are the melee snakes. 5-up armor save, 6-up ward save, 8-inch move, 2 health, 1 control. For melee weapons, you've got the Heart Shard Glaive, 2 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 2 with crit mortals. They have the Crystal Touch, so in any combat phase, pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a dice. If the roll exceeds the target's health characteristic, the target has Strike Last for the rest of the turn. So I'm going to keep referring back to that game I played at LVO. The Blood Sisters buffed to the teeth with the Sacrament of Blood, with Mind Razor, with Steed of Shadows, ran up, got into combat with me, and then they crystal touched a unit of eels that they were in combat with. It was on a 5+ because the eels have 4 health each. And so he Strike Last, killed the turtle. It was a nightmare. It was the scariest thing. That was after a cover fire that I did, where I killed 4 of them on the way in. It was absurd. There's 6 of them there, and they killed a turtle in one go. And if the Strike Last rules where it alternates, there's no Strike Last phase, right? So I got to swing with the eels first, even though they were Strike Last. I killed these this unit of Blood Sisters before they could swing into me, but it would have easily picked up 1,000 points of my army in one go. Very scary. And then we've got the Kinnerai Life Takers, 5 up armor save, 6 up ward save, 12-inch move, 2 health, 1 control. For melee weapons, you've got the Barbed Sickle, 2 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 1 with crit auto wound. They also have Circling the Skies, so when they come down, death from above, they can come down anywhere outside 9 of enemy units, which is really cool, like we've talked about already. And then they have Fight and Flight. This is a reaction when you declare a fight ability for these guys. After resolving the effect of that fight ability, this unit can immediately move d6 inches. It cannot end that move in combat with any units it was not in combat with at the start of the move, but it doesn't have to end in combat. So like these guys, the shooting ones that we talked about earlier, they shoot and then do this. These guys fight and then could hop out of the combat potentially, which is pretty awesome because you can go pin something, maybe kill a model or two, and then they jump out of there. And if you get a big roll on that, then your opponent won't even be able to fight you back. And then the last unit we're going to talk about are the Khaine Shadow Stalkers. These guys are really awesome because they have the Shadow Leap ability we'll get to in a second, but 5 up armor save, 6 up ward save, 6-inch move, 1 health, and 1 control. Ranged weapons, they got the Cursed Missiles, 10-inch range, 1 attack, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1. And then melee weapons, you've got the Shadow Stalker Blades, 2 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1. But the reason you're taking these guys is for Shadow Leap. This is in your movement phase. Remove this unit from the battlefield and set it up again on the battlefield more than 9 inches from all enemy units. So this isn't a once per turn per army thing. So if you took 4 units of these guys, they'd all be able to jump around and do Shadow Leap, which is really awesome. At LVO, I kept getting hit with this because I took Intercept and Recover. He put a treasure on each of the units that he had of these, so he had 2 of them. And then I couldn't get to him until turn 5, which he had to make a play to try and score some points. And so I was able to kill the units towards the end of the game. But there was no way I was going to be able to reach these guys if he hadn't had to make plays onto objectives. So these are really good for like Intercept and Recover. You put the treasure on them, get them out of here. Backlining units, hopping onto objective. It is these guys are awesome. These are really fun. And the models are really cool too. Like they're all just very different and unique, which I really like. But that's the review for the Daughters of Khaine. It's a very scary army. It's truly leans into the weight of dice as far as there's not a whole lot of rend, there's not a whole lot of damage, but I'm going to have so many attacks, and with the ability to spend a command point and fight twice with any unit I want, with the Blood Rights, getting all of those buffs all at once, with the Sacrament of Blood, with Mind Razor getting +1 rend and then +1 damage on the charge. Like there's so many buffs that make this army so dangerous in combat, and there's so many ways that you can get all of your spells and get those buffs off that it makes the army very, very dangerous to fight against. Armor isn't great. They're not a grindy army. They're going to, in their combat phase, they're going to get into you. They're going to swing into you. You're going to roll a ton of dice, which is awesome. I mean, the biggest thing in Warhammer is that we're rolling dice. So the more times I can roll dice, the happier I am. Even when I'm rolling bad, nothing feels better than rolling, 40 plus dice. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out to kind of see what is working, what is not. Leave us some feedback in the comments if you want to let us know which army you want to see next. If you play the Daughters of Khaine, I'd love to see your list. Leave a comment. That's all we've got for you this time. Thanks for watching.